Hey girl, welcome to Finding My Best Self, the podcast where it's totally okay to show up in your leggings and messy bun. Because let's be real, that's our uniform here. The only rule is to be unapologetically yourself.
And I'm Mandi, and joining me is Pam, the queen of finding the silver linings. We're here to share laughs, tears, and everything in between. Think of us as your new best friends with some stories to tell and wisdom to share.
From face palms to victories, we're diving into the journey of self-discovery, wellness, and what it means to truly embrace who you are. So whether you're conquering the world or just trying to find your phone in the black hole, purse, we've got you covered.
Because here it's all about encouraging you to lace up those sneakers, or don't, we're not judging, and join us as we explore what it truly means to own your confidence and find your best self.
So pour yourself a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and let's get into it.
Hi, and welcome back to the Finding My Best Self podcast. I am Mandi St. Germain. I'm doing a solo episode today. I wanted to first, before we begin, ask if you would leave us a review. We love to hear feedback on different topics you would like to hear, or just how you are enjoying the podcast. We definitely look at the reviews. We want to improve the podcast as much as possible. So definitely show us some love. And if you haven't yet, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, because we definitely like to post clips and you can kind of get before the scenes look at the next week's episode. So first off, happy middle of April. I just had a birthday, so I am definitely feeling the love today, but also feeling the love that it is my last year in my 30s. So if you feel that with me, definitely let me know. I still feel like I'm 21, but my body, on the other hand, feels like it's already 50. But anyways, today's episode, I really wanted to kind of dive into decisions and discernment and that anxiousness that comes around it. I know in previous episodes, Pam and I kind of, hit on some heavy topics that both of us were feeling. But I wanted today to kind of be just some tips on doing that, because that's literally what I've been living. But also I feel like I've done that the last 10 years. And so it gets heavy because, we always feel like we want to make the right decisions, or we want to know that we're going in the right direction. And sometimes that's easier said than done. Definitely whenever it comes to big life decisions. If you don't know my backstory, my husband's been in the military for 20 years, and it was definitely always decision making. We had to always make big life decisions. And so I feel like that prepared me for the things that I'm currently going through. And so it was just changing, jobs, locations, all of that. It was always heavy. And so I had to learn different skills in order to push myself and to really get out of my comfort zone, because before we met, I was just in my hometown, going to college, doing my thing. But that lifestyle really pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And I am more grateful for it now than ever, because the things that God has shown and provided for me and is pushing me to do, there would be no way I would have been prepared for that if I wouldn't have had these life experiences. So isn't it funny that you can kind of look back and see all the different, I don't want to say trials, but all the different things that you might have gone through in your life. And then you realize what those were for later on, because it's definitely one of those times that you can look back and reflect and say, oh, now I get it. Now I get it. Do we wish we would have that discernment whenever we're going through it? Absolutely. That would make life so much easier if we could see the big picture. But I'm kind of glad we don't, because at those times it builds that grit, that character, the stamina and perseverance that we need in order to get through life. So just whenever it comes to decisions or big life choices that you have to make, or even just choices in general, it really comes down to that discernment, sitting with, thinking it through. If you were anything like me in the past, I was very much, oh yeah, that looks great. Or, oh yeah, this is what I need to be doing. And I would just jump to it. But that wasn't always the best decisions that I made. The ones that were had the most longevity were the ones that I sat with. And so obviously, as a faithful woman, I sit and pray on it. I need to know that I'm doing God's will for my life and living out my purpose. And so part of that was sitting and praying and to really be still and listen. And what happened in that is that everything else had to be kind of shut off. I had to slow down because as much as I thought I was praying on it and thought that I was giving it the time that it needed, I wasn't, because I was still doing the hustle and bustle. I was running around and I wasn't being still. And so God kind of showed me through a series of events what I needed to do in order to slow down to really hear what he was trying to tell me. And so I feel like sometimes that's easier said than done because I'm a mom and stepmom to 4 girls. And so obviously to sit and be still and have quietness is very hard. I'm up in the morning doing this podcast before my children are awake and praying that they stay asleep because they can walk in here at any moment. But that's life, right? Like we are constantly interrupted, constantly distracted by things. And so if we don't set time away to really be still and to listen, then we're not going to have that. And so it is easier said than done. But at the same time, what that means is to really sit down and think, are my choices, my habits, my direction that I'm putting myself in, the places, the people, are they aligning with the things that I am trying to decide on? So for me, that looked like, is the people I'm around, the situations I put myself in, the things that I am doing, the choices either to my body or my daily task, is that aligning with what I want and see for my future? Because I do feel like we have those little winks from God that say, you're really good at this, or you really should be doing this. Or you kind of feel that kind of strain whenever you're in certain situations, because then you're like, oh, well, this doesn't feel right anymore, or this doesn't, just doesn't give you that satisfaction that it did before. And that's okay, because it's okay to change and to shift, because that's what God's purpose for us is to live life enjoyably, to have peace. And a lot of the times we don't have that peace anymore whenever those doors are closing. We often push through that. Like, it's fine. I'll make it through. I'll push through. But really, those are all those signs from God that literally tell you it's time to move on. It's time. And don't get me wrong, sometimes those are very hard, because then you're looking and you're like, but I love this. I want this. This is what I've always done. You get into like those contentment stages, and then you're struggling through that, when really life should be a lot more peaceful. And that word peace is like something to really hold on to, because that peace is what you should feel every single day. If it's, it says in here, I actually pulled out my Bible today where I could read it for you. It says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God will transcend all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Like, that's it. Don't be anxious. All understanding, it's not for us to understand. It's for us to have that peace, because anything else, if it's not coming from God, is not going to be peaceful. And it's just one of those things that it's time to transition and time to move out of those phases of life. That's why you hear, this is the season I'm in, because it's not meant to be forever. And I feel like as women, especially, we get into those contentment stages because we're expected to do or continue to do things that we've always done. And as a mother, that's 100% true. We are a lot of the time the oiled machine that keeps everything going. But at the same time, if we are constantly burning ourselves out, that's whenever we need to make some shifts. And I know everyone's situation is different. You may not have the flexibility to go and do a whole new career or shift into a hobby that you love and give it, 100% of your time. But even just doing something that fuels you is what's going to help you pull out of that contentment stage. Because I guarantee you, if you are anything like me and you find yourself in the kind of hamster wheel of life, and you feel like you're doing the same thing day in, day out, you're going to burn yourself out. And you're not truly giving yourself that that will that God is giving you to do the things that you're meant to do. And that could be being a mother. I mean, for the longest time, that was my calling. I was, a stay-at-home mom or working mom while my husband was on deployments or, at trainings and things like that. And now that I'm on the other side of that, he retired in December, those things have shifted. And that's been a big life decision or life season for us because he is home now and I don't have to do all those things and I have help. And that was a little hard at first to kind of sink in because I was so used to doing it myself. I didn't need help. And what was happening though is I was burning the candle on both ends and I wasn't doing what God was pushing me to do. I had went back into the workplace and really strived at my positions. And it's one of those decisions that you have to look at, the crossroads. Am I supposed to go down this path or this path? And don't make those decisions on your own. You can reach out and you can ask and you'll it says it in the Bible, ask and you shall receive. It's one of those things that you don't have to make decisions on your own. And honestly, I wouldn't even recommend it because a lot of the times when we make those decisions ourselves, that's whenever we do what we want and not what we are being called to do. And that's whenever that anxiousness, stress, all of that comes about because that's not necessarily where you're supposed to be, who you're supposed to be around, what you're supposed to be doing, and you feel that strain. So if you're kind of in that life, you're not sure which way to go, or you just feel like you have a calling and a purpose on your life, but you're not sure what that looks like, you just need to be still to pray with it and get that discernment. It's one of those things where you can kind of put yourself in different situations because they also say that in the Bible that, don't stay content in one lane. Put yourself out there. If you fail, at least you tried. And I feel like that's the hardest thing because we don't want to fail. We don't want to get into something and say, oh man, now everyone's going to judge me because this isn't, this isn't successful. Well, guess what? The same thing goes the other way. If you never put yourself out there, you're never going to know what you could have even done. And you could be, missing the whole calling that you had on your life because you just didn't try. And I know it's scary. Trust me, I've done it 1,000 times, but I have always been that person that will at least try. I will give it my all. I will do what I can. But then whenever I feel like it's time to move on. And that's such a hard thing to do because we get stuck I'm going to go to our careers. We get stuck in our careers and we're like, okay, I've been at the same job for 10 years and, I'm pretty good at it. I love the people I work with, or you may not. And then you just feel stuck though. And you feel like, oh, well, financially I need this, or, I've been here so long, so I can't quit now. But at the same time, if you feel that like thing deep down, that's kind of urging you to try something else. And you could even do this while you're still at your job, right? Kind of just start to look into it, start to pray on it, start to ask, is that something that you should pursue? Because 99% of the time, that's your calling and that's where you're supposed to be. And even though it's scary and it may not make sense, and you are trying to decide what that looks like in your life, everything will work out if that is what's meant to be. And I always say that it doesn't hurt to try, but then if the door closes, then guess what? The door was not meant for me to walk through. And it's one of those things that it's so hard for us to really kind of sit with and understand, but it's not for our understanding. He is going to give you everything that you need in order to understand it along the way. And that's something that we had talked about last week with just having that lamp to my feet, light of my path. Like, let him light your path. You don't have to know the answers. You don't have to know the beginning, middle, and end. Those are all things that will come with time. And then you will look back and say, oh, that's why this happened the way that it did. It's also one of those things that with decisions and just life choices in general, that we really have to step outside of ourselves and look around. What are we doing that is helping others? Because that is something that we were brought here to do, right? We are here to shed our light, our love, and to be helpful to one another. So a lot of the times if we're making decisions in life, it's all about us. And I love Joyce Meyer. If you don't know, I'm a huge fan. And she's always like, what about me? What about me? And it's literally that phrase. It's not about you. It's about other people and how we can serve and how we can show and walk more like Jesus. What is that going to look like? What are the things that I'm doing in my daily life and the decisions that I'm making that are pushing me to be more like that person? And so that's really one of those things that we have to sit with and think on, because that should be what we're doing every single day. And so just kind of thinking forward, I hope that you are kind of using those things in order to move forward with your decisions and life choices, and just really knowing that with that discernment, that that's where it's going to push you into be. And so I just wanted to leave you with this last little verse that I had. Honestly, I was doing my devotional this morning and it popped up, and then I just randomly opened my Bible and there it was again. And I just love those little winks because it's truly one of those things that I value the most. And so it says, whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and God of peace will be with you. Every excellence or praiseworthy, think about such things. So anything that you feel that is excellent or praiseworthy, you need to put that into action. And I feel like that's the hardest thing sometimes for us, is to actually put those things into action and do the things that we know we're being called to, because that discernment is going to start to creep up. And every situation you put yourself in, or every decision you go to make, that little hint of resistance you need to pray on, because like I said, if anything is coming, it's going to be peaceful. It's not going to feel anxious or stressed. And if you do feel anxious or stressed, just know that you need to pray through that, and to honestly know that God is not going to be sending you stress. If anything, he's going to be bringing it back and helping you through the tough times. And everything is going to work out for your good, whether you're in a tough season or if you're in the best season of your life. Everything is going to show you a lesson, and it's going to continue to help you make those hard decisions and choices. And I just hope that you know that you're not alone. If you're trying to make a hard decision right now and you're struggling through it, just sit with it. Sit with it. Talk to someone that you know that you kind of have that relationship with, to have those deep conversations, because we all need people like that. And if you don't have that, reach out to us. We will definitely be that person for you. We do want this to be a community. And so we would love to hear from y'all and kind of, have that rapport, and just know that you're not alone. Whether you are, someone listening in that for the first time, just know that we are here every single week, and we talk about those hard topics that a lot of people don't want to talk about on social media. So that's why we said, please send in any kind of questions that you have, any topics that you would like to hear, because this is for y'all. We want to help you through each season of life and be able to feel confident doing it, but also just know that we love you and you are capable, worthy, and we're endlessly rooting for you. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please leave us a review if you did, and we will see you next time.
Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of Finding My Best Self. It's been real. It's been fun. We hope you found a piece of your story in ours and feel a little more inspired to chase after your best self.
And don't forget to share this episode with someone who needs a little boost today, or a good laugh, and make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode.
Nothing says owning your confidence like a new outfit from MBS Fitco. Check out the show notes for the link to shop our luxury athleisure. Go ahead, girl, treat yourself.
And if you've got a story to share or a topic you're dying for us to cover, drop us a line. Our email is in the show notes. Just reach out and let's keep the conversation going.
So, until next time, keep owning your confidence, embracing the chaos, and remember, the best version of you is just an episode away.
And again, we love you and we're endlessly rooting for you.